Shout out to the Green Tea team. How's everyone doing? Audio and visual check. Just check that we're live. Please hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment. It is appreciated. I have a very good edition of the video log today. Lot to look at. Okay, we've got people coming in here. Are we live? Leave a thumbs up. There's a live chat feature if you're watching this live. Audio and looking good. Looking good. Sounding good. Please hit it. Yeah, we're all good. Okay. The thumbnail on today's video is Pope Leo, the head of the Catholic Church, the Vatican, doing a blessing on an ice cube at the United Nations Summit on Climate Change. We know the man-made climate change hoax is an anti-God, anti-human agenda, wanting to bring in central bank digital currencies, digital IDs, carbon credit, individual carbon credit trackers, these sorts of things. And that's why I have entitled this live stream, Is the Pope is the new Al Gore. Al Gore, the globalist puppet maker of the peak oil climate change fear and control documentary, fictitious movie back in the, I believe it was the 90s, maybe the 80s, saying that we'd run out of oil by the 2000s because it was not renewable. Man is the cancer on the world, with, population reduction, all of these things. So here's the Pope Leo. Multiple people. Pope Leo blesses ice, sparks anger, and pagan earth worship ritual. This is from msn.com. Masonry. Multiple people have spoken out against Pope Leo blessing a block of ice during a global church summit on climate change. Global church summit on climate change. With one calling it part of a weird pagan earth worshipping hippie ritual. Correct. Part of the UN New World Order is a one world religion. One world religion. One world government. All led by the UN and the Vatican. Leo carried out the blessing while he presided over the 10th anniversary celebration of immediate predecessor Pope Francis' landmark ecological encyclical, a papal letter sent by all Roman Catholic bishops. So this is the Pope's climate summit. Pope Leo was presiding over the Raising Hope for Climate Justice International Conference at Castel Gandolfo, just south of Rome, in front of more than 1,000 people, according to National Catholic Reporter. Footage of him blessing a block of ice has been shared widely online. Several figures have criticized the move, classing it as paganism and saying the leader of the Catholic Church shouldn't be anywhere near this nonsense. I agree. But he is at the tip of the spear of this nonsense. He is guiding this nonsense. Why it matters, the event unfolded against the backdrop of heightened US political polarization around climate issues, with Pope Leo delivering veiled criticism of those who ridicule global warming science. Is he going to criticize me, a living man? made in the image of the creator of the balanced universe? Is that what the Pope's going to do? This comes as Leo is already facing backlash for his comments about abortion and what it means to be consistently pro-life. So okay, what else? What else am I getting into here today? Okay. Al Gore, sea level rise false. So is the Pope the new Al Gore? Sea level rise is going to rise. That was a thing back in the day. False. Polar ice caps melting. False. Polar bear numbers declining. Extinction imminent. False. No oil or gas by the early 2000s. Peak oil. False. Global warming. Had to change it to climate change. False. Snow going from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. False. They push these agendas again and again. Prove false. I'm also going to look today at portrayed by trusted voices. Nigel Latter, a big formerly trusted voice, passed away this week due to cancer. So rest in peace, Nigel Latter. So Nigel Latter passes this week. Why did people remember how he pushed the Kovid tyranny, segregation and government overreach? When those pre-Covid trusted voices were brought in to quell public, backlash, to get people to fall in line with the tyranny, why after he died are people in the freedom space remembering some of the things he pushed during his time? Ashley Bloomfield gives evidence at Scottish's token Kovid enquiry after declining to be asked the hard questions under oath here in New Zealand at our token Kovid inquiry. So he turns down the talking under oath here in New Zealand, and then he goes and promotes and pushes and says how well he did at the Scottish token Kovid inquiry. They are their own worst enemies. We see through it, and it discredits them. It discredits them. It discredits the media. It discredits people lose trust. And local body elections coming up on the 11th of October throughout New Zealand. And localization, the cure for centralization. Centralization is the precursor to globalization. That's why the local body elections are so important. Local body elections in New Zealand. Why they matter. Why the need to have your say. And also on Tuesday, this Tuesday coming, I've got sitting Total District Councillor Duncan Campbell coming onto the channel for an interview. And Māori ward seats, the problem with them. Should we have guaranteed freedom team seats? Or does the motivated will of the people reflect in our local governance? We're going to have a look at that. I'll play a bit of the theme song for today while people get in here. This is my son, Los Phoenix, Bonnie and Clyde. Hit the like and subscribe. I've got some good clips. Use the live chat.
I learned to shine my light. Lightning is real. Meditate within the night. Silence can heal. Educate them when I rhyme, try and reveal. How does it feel to be alive? I'm dying to heal. Fascination with danger, this relationship is dangerous. Made love with an angel, woke up in a spaceship. Detached before I get used to her, yeah, you know that I know. Let light beam take Jupiter, fuck you in your eye. There's 5 reasons why I love you and none of them rhyme. 9 times 9, 81, Bonnie and Clyde. We got high and sat by the Wellington side. One hell of a time, it's rock and roll till I die. I'm looking at it like it's more than love, and you're the calling formula that I had thought it before my promises. Why she don't piss me off, please, I've got this, yeah.
Welcome to the Green Tea Freedom and Truth channel. This is Tristan. It's good to have the Green Tea team back for today's edition of the live stream. It is Sunday, the 5th of October, 2025 here in Taupo, New Zealand. I appreciate the Green Tea team. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment. Let's get the numbers up. I'm also going to have a look. Okay, let's have a look at the pagan ice worship of Pope Leo. So let me know what you think.
Rome urging action on climate change and global leaders to act decisively. The Pope attended the 10th anniversary celebration of the late Pope Francis's climate summit, which helped set the tone for the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. He was joined on stage by actor and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, who watched as Leo placed his hand on a large chunk of ice taken from a melting glacier in Greenland.
So there's the Pope blessing a 200,000 so-called block of Greenland ice. And then, they're watching, they're having that climate summit in Italy. So then they're saying there's a crisis. So someone would have had to have, just on a practical common sense level, flown by some means or gotten to some way to Greenland, hucked out a huge chunk, probably bigger than that to allow for meltage and transportation of the precious so-called diminishing ice. So there's enough for them to take another chunk away, and then fly it across on cargo planes or helicopter, however they did it, and then set it up, all the labor, all the time, all the energy, so you can have your moment in front of the glowing blue ice cube for your ritual. Because and know that the Vatican, the Pope, were pushing climate lockdowns. Climate, a day of staying at home for the planet. The Pope and the Vatican is guiding the ungodly, anti-God, anti-human climate hoax agenda. Subjugation. The people pay more for power, the net zero, the driving less, the traveling less, the eating less, the being less, the having less children, all from the hand of the Vatican, the hand of the Pope. And then they bring in Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is on Carl Vernon's channel on YouTube. Shout out Carl Vernon. And you listen to the list of things that Arnold Schwarzenegger runs off about ways they tried to get the numbers into a fear and control mind state. Pretty much the same as Al Gore. And how they managed to get it to stick. Or not.
I didn't have the Pope putting a blessing on a block of ice for the old climate change on my bingo card for 2025. I don't know about you. I didn't have that one. Nope, I didn't have that one. But at this very same event, they've all come out. We've got, who else? But Arnold Schwarzenegger giving a wee message.
You have to communicate the right way. When we started our environmental movement in California, when I became governor,
in California,
people were not behind us. I said to myself, why is that? We're talking about climate change. 20% of the people said, yeah, this is kind of dangerous. Or you need more than 50%, right, to get anything done.
Absolutely. How do you get that 20% to 50%? Well, it's got to be some sort of social coercion, some sort of nudging, some sort of message that is out continually.
So we talked then about the rising sea level. Nothing, the needle didn't move.
No.
We talked about the glaciers melting, the ice is melting, the polar bear is in danger. No matter what we said, it didn't move the needle, nothing happened. But then the American Lung Association sent us a television commercial, little commercial that showed a kid, a little tiny kid.
Bit like the old Rona. That'll do it, won't it? Yeah. In regards to rising them fear levels, nothing like a bit of fear and a bit of guilt. Fear and guilt, yeah, them two will do it. Get in the chopper.
Yes, the children, the air quality, however they want to spin it to get people into that mind frame where they stop thinking. They stop trusting their God-given faculties, common sense, critical thinking, intuition, endowed to us by the creator of the balanced universe. And you see in the front row of that that climate get together, the priests, the bishops, all of the ones, the hierarchy, because the Catholic Church is very hierarchical. It's very, centralized power. The Pope is the centralized power. Then the cardinals, and it's a UN style central. And no shade if you're a Catholic, if you believe in the Bible and Jesus, but trust and believe your organization is front and center, pushing an anti-God, anti-human agenda for the and they guide the United Nations. The United Nations and the Vatican are the same thing. Trust and believe. So, and this is all in the vein of after Trump came in and did the dunk on the climate change scam, which I approved of.
Not happening. It used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler. So now they could just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail.
And this is, and all of these climate summits, and this is all on the backdrop of 80% of people in the free West. Fill in your free Western country. Shout out Australia. Shout out Canada. Shout out the United Kingdom, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. Shout out to the United States of America, France, Germany, Japan. Shout out to Korea. People aren't buying it. Arnold Schwarzenegger was just saying that the sea level rise, polar bear numbers, no one's buying it. Just like this poll we did in New Zealand. 80% of people want out of Paris.
has been
climate
abuzz
scam.
with non-stop coverage of the country's involvement in the Paris Climate Accord, sparked by the ACT Party's call to withdraw unless major reforms are made to allow for more realistic emission targets for agricultural nations like New Zealand. ACT leader David Seymour argued that the Paris Accord is broken and unfairly burdens New Zealand farmers, proposing negotiations for exemptions on food production emissions or an outright exit if those are unmet by 2030. This stance predictably drew the sharp responses from the coalition partners. National has firmly rejected leaving the Paris Accord, with Christopher Luxon emphasizing his commitment to the deal amid trade risks, while New Zealand first Winston Peters criticized it as ineffective for New Zealand, questioning its value without the broader global buy-in. Coverage across all the mainstream media articles like RNZ, NZ Herald, and Stuff has been, not surprisingly, focused on highlighting potential climate fallout, including threats to our free trade agreements with the EU and UK, which tie market access to the compliance with the Paris Accord. Green MP Chloe Schwabik has slammed ACT's position as reckless denialism, while farming groups like Groundswell have praised it for challenging the ideological sludge in the climate policy. Former MP and former Climate Minister Tim Grosser has urged that we should stay in, warning of international isolation. What I did find interesting, Dawn, was that the Stuff reader poll that was open last week for 2-3 days, the simple question it asked was, should New Zealand withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord? The results, until I last checked, was 78% Kiwi said yes, we should, 20% said no, and 2% were unsure. Very telling.
They're their own worst enemies. They discredit themselves. They're just pushing ahead. So we need to really get active, peaceful non-compliance on a local level, because localization is the cure for centralization. Before we get into the Nigel Latter and the betrayed by trusted faces portion of the live stream, I came across this video clip of a Maori guy, a scientist guy up in Auckland ways, and talking about kina barrens. Kina barrens is areas of seabed where the sea urchins have taken over, and they're talking, and the government's talking about banning any fishing, any harvesting, basically any use of the waterways around the Hauraki Gulf, Auckland waterways, and Northland. And just when I see these things, I'm like, that fits in perfectly to the UN Agenda 2030. The wildering, the getting people away from the land, getting people out of the natural areas. So when this Maori guy's going, oh, they don't have the predators, the crayfish or the snapper or whatever. We need to stop recreational fishing and usage of Hauraki Gulf, Hauraki Gulf, Northland. But it's because of the ecosystem. They're weaponizing environmentalism. And surprise, surprise, the Crown wants to support the Māori to get the ecology back, and blocking anyone from going to get a feed to feed their family.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Reto from ELI, and today we're talking about a new report that has been released where scientists have mapped the coastline of Northland, starting from the Cape to and including Hauraki Gulf, and shows the devastation and the spread of kina barrens therein. A new study shows that more than a third of the total available habitat on the east coast of Northland is now riddled with kina barrens. A kina barren is just a large patch of the ocean that only has kina there, and that might sound okay because kina are nice to eat, but you can't eat these ones because they don't have any roe. They don't have any roe because they've already eaten all of the seaweed and there's nothing left for them to eat. The biggest problem associated with this is the lack of predators, so a lack of koura and a lack of tamura that eat those kina. That whole relationship is dependent on all the species, right? If you take one out, you affect the other ones. So the biggest problem with these kina barons has been a lack of predators due to overfishing. So ELI have thus far taken 2 cases on the crayfish issue, and we've won both of them. And what we pointed out was there's this incredible volume of scientific evidence that says that the best way to restore and fix this issue of kina barons is to get those predator numbers back, and the overwhelming evidence is that large-scale spatial closures are needed to do that. So creating areas where no one can fish for a long period of time that allows new crayfish juvenile recruitment and allows them to transform into an adult population. At the moment, the numbers of crayfish are so low on the east coast that the commercial take is already very low, recreational take is low, that's simply because you can't find them there because they've been overfished and there's now not enough kelp to sustain that population. So that report that just came out confirmed that what we already knew in terms of this ecological crisis being present, but also amplified it because we now know that in certain areas like Hoturuatoi, Little Barrier Island, there's now 87% of their reef habitat covered in kina barons. We're very pleased to see that the Crown has released a consultation for a proposed 1-year closure at best for recreational and commercial fishing onto Taitama Wahine on the east coast of Northland. Because the Crown is understanding that that is the only available mechanism that's consistent with the science that tells us to ensure sustainability and to address this kina baron crisis, we need to have long-term spatial closures.
Kina crisis. What, minimum 1-year recreational fishing ban in the Hauraki Gulf and Northland. That's Agenda 2030. You know, you can't chuck a line and grab you a feed. The Crown's supporting it. Yeah, let me know what you think, but that is shocking that they're trying to roll out these mass agendas in the name of environmentalism, in the name of bringing balance to the ecology. That's what they hide behind. It's all hidden behind the green mask of environmentalism. Okay, so for those who don't know, Nigel Latter, rest in peace, was a clinical psychologist who passed away. What have we got here? Clinical psychologist Nigel Latter has died aged 58. The popular clinical psychologist, TV host and author was diagnosed with gastric cancer in 2024. His wife broke the news of his death. Farewell, my great love. You were never dying, just living until the moment you weren't. So he passed away at 58. New Zealand psychologist, author and media personality Nigel Latter has died after living with cancer for just over a year. So pretty short, a year of being sick. Farewell, my great love. You fought cancer with enormous bravery. You spent your life helping others in need, and now it's your turn to rest. Yeah. So he passed away. But in the freedom, because he pushed the COVID tyranny. He was one of their trusted faces. I was on it for a couple of years. Okay, these people that had good social standing, that people trusted and needed, trusted and believed. They rolled them out, and I'll give an example. Because people were like comments he made publicly about not allowing unvaccinated people to come to family gatherings or this sort of thing. And I was thinking, why is it that these people, in passing, people remember? I'll play this 2-minute clip from the Ministry of Health website at the beginning of the vax rollout. of Nigel Latter from the Ministry of Health.
Number, and 59% of the population have had their second dose as of today. That's over 6 million doses out there. Now, we are here to get that even higher. We want to go way higher than that. It's a COVID challenge that we are taking head on Super Saturday, and I know, and everybody knows, that there are still lots of people with questions about the vaccine, and we have got a team of some of our best Kiwis and some of our best experts actually here tonight to take some of your answers, and I'll start by introducing them, and a man actually that doesn't need much introduction whatsoever. Nigel Latter is here. Nigel, welcome. And Nigel is, of course, a trained clinical psychologist. He's worked for over 2 decades. I thought it would have been many, many more than that, but that's what I'm told here in forensic psychology, and of course in family therapy, and he is one of our most well-known and trusted psychologists, and in fact well-known and trusted New Zealanders. We also have Dr. Maya Brewerton, who is, she's from Ngāti Porou and Ngāti Kahungunu, but she's also a clinical immunologist, an allergist, and an immunopathologist. All hard words to say, but all very important things when it comes to talking about the vaccine. Welcome, Maya.
Kia ora, Paddy.
And Dr. Helen Petusis-Harris is a vaccinologist at the University of Auckland with 23 years experience in vaccine-related research, and her special interests are, of course, vaccine effectiveness and vaccine safety. Second dose. Helen.
Kia ora, everybody.
And if we could just begin, actually, I'll give you 60 seconds each. You can do it. Nigel seemed to reckon before we came on here that he could do it a lot quicker than 60 seconds, but if each of the three of you, and before we do that, we'll also welcome Scott, our interpreter, and Donna, our interpreter, who we've got here, and isn't that going to be great? But if we could start with you, Nigel, within 60 seconds at least, are you fully jabbed, and why did you do it?
Yeah, so I've had my two doses. Real simple. I'm 54, and I didn't want to die. Like, it's that simple. I just thought, you just even a cursory knowledge of what's going on. So yeah, like 54, not having. It's interesting that I've had lots of vaccines over my life. Never really think about them. When I got the second vaccine, I felt this huge sense of relief. So yeah, it's like real simple for me. Didn't want to die.
Good reason. Helen, can you do it quicker than him? You seem to reckon you could do it pretty quick as well. That's a pretty good reason.
I can do it really quick. Like Nigel, don't want to get dead, but also really don't like COVID, don't like the idea of long COVID, don't want to be part of the problem, want to be part of the solution for myself and my whānau. So that was important. And as a vaccinologist, I have to admit I was pretty excited about this new vaccine, and it was a cathartic moment getting that done. So that's my reasons.
Again, rest in peace, Nigel Latter. And my read on this is betrayed by trusted voices. We saw all of these people which we thought were, sports stars, music industry, Hollywood, TV celebrities, social media influencers. When push came to shove, they fell in line and went lockstep with the global tyranny agenda, the global centralization agenda. So people feel betrayed by that because they had social credit, they had trust, they had people believed in them, and then no objectivity, no alternative viewpoints, and they're their own worst enemies, and it just makes them, in reflection, people feel a way about it. That's why when he passed, these clips came out. People remembered he was saying to segregate, to get the injections that hurt people, all of these things, and then he passes away. A year or two after making these claims. So people do feel betrayed by these so-called trusted voices, and then we get to a stage where we had our token COVID inquiry, just like Token Black on South Park. The Kovid inquiry public hearings have been axed because key decision makers refused to front. In a stunning yet unsurprising twist, Chris Hipkins, Ashley Bloomfield, Jacinda Ardern, and the health minister at the time all refused to turn up under oath and give evidence, answer the hard questions. They all refused. They all backed out. They all ran away like cockroaches. According New Zealand's after 4 of them refused to appear in public. According to Commissioner's Minutes, the 13th of August 2025, former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, Chris Hipkins, along with former Ministers Grant Robertson and Alicia Verrill, all declined invitations to front up before the nations. That's right, these chickens right here. Jacinda, Chris, Grant. Official excuses include claiming a convention that ministers should be interviewed privately, arguing that public questioning could be performative rather than informative, suggesting live stream footage could be tampered with or misused. So weak, feeble excuses. And then we see Ashley Bloomfield goes to the token Scottish COVID with the K inquiry and gives evidence raving about how well we did. But he won't stand where there's truth, where there is any hard questions being asked. Here, I'll tell a story. I was watching yesterday true crime on my Facebook reel. It was an hour video. They arrested a young guy. His brother's partner had gone missing. He was the last person to see her in the morning. He had scratches on his face. She went missing that morning. Her baby was left at home. He was the clear suspect in the crime. You know, he was the last person to see her. He had feeble excuses, and they were interviewing him, and he just lied, made up stories, made up excuses to cover his butt. Every time a new piece of evidence came along that incriminated him and he was shown again and again that his story was a lie. He said he went to work, he said he called this, he said he did this and that, and then finally he had to admit he had an argument with his brother's partner. But this went on for years. The baby was left at home. He was the last person to see her. The circumstantial evidence that he had something to do with her disappearance was, very, very strong. And then, but every time a new piece of evidence, because any time he had to keep lying to protect himself. If at any time he told the truth, he would incriminate himself and prove himself guilty. 2.5 years later, they find her body buried in a field near the house. Then he comes in, is interviewed again, and his story's changed. So they kind of know he's done it. And in the end, 10 years later, 11 years later, finally the evidence finally catches up to him, and he gets charged, and he does a plea bargain, and he gets charged with involuntary manslaughter. Like, he's got scratches on his neck from a struggle the day after. And then he says, they had an argument, and he pushed her, and she fell over and hit her head. And She never recovered from it, and then he panicked and hid the body. He got 15 years or 30 years, so a very minor reduced sentence because of the time that had passed and what have you. But he would never, always lying, always trying to protect themselves, always having to keep the facade up. And he admitted, this young guy admitted that he was a compulsive liar. And when your freedom, your liberty, they are so invested in keeping themselves protected. Bloomfield gives evidence at Scottish Covid inquiry. This is the Daily Telegraph.co.nz. Former Director General of Health Ashley Bloomfield appeared before the Scottish COVID-19 inquiry, proving insights into New Zealand COVID pandemic response. He highlighted how daily public briefings became a critical communication tool for both the public and health leaders, and explained that underinvestment in health infrastructure left New Zealand with aging facilities, limited hospital capacity, and one of the OECD's lowest ICU bed counts. You know, just this usual rhetoric, the usual story, and when new information comes out, they just amend their lies a little more. The vulnerability drove the government shift from suppression to an elimination strategy, which successfully contained COVID-19 until vaccines arrived far sooner than expected, became available. Bloomfield acknowledged the pandemic plan was heavily influenza-based and lacked flexibility, meaning much of the response had to be adapted in real time. Ashley Bloomfield has delivered a full report to the Scottish Covid inquiry and will appear before them later today. Yes, Scotland gets answers while our own inquiry hides him from public. It's just token. We are the ones. So let's get this straight. Ashley Bloomfield, the man at the centre of New Zealand's COVID response, isn't fronting up in public at our own Royal Commission. Our Commission has decided not to compel the key decision makers, too awkward, too political, too adversarial. So they're out of it. And it discredits them. It discredits them, the media, their story. It reflects badly. They're their own worst enemy. We just have to keep on the righteous path. Like Bonnie and Clyde.
Sharpen my patience, breathwork and meditation. I'm in a Rolls Royce and I'm racing. Fascination with danger, this relationship is dangerous. Made love with an angel, woke up in a spaceship. Detached before I get used to her. Yeah, you know that I know. The light beam to Jupiter, fuck you in your eyes. There's 5 reasons why I love you, none of them rhyme. 9 times 9, 81. Bonnie and Clyde, we got high and set by the Wellington sign. One hell of a time, it's rock and roll till I die.
Okay. Localization is the cure for centralization. Local body elections in New Zealand. Why they matter. Why you need to have your say. We got to look at the Māori ward seats. The problem with them. Should the Freedom Team seat have guaranteed seats, or do the motivated will of the people reflect our local governance? It's very important that we make an effort in local body elections. So if we would be saying, so there should, like, just say there's 30 or 40% of Freedom people in Taupo, we should have, out of 10 councillors, 3 or 4, or 2 or 3, at least Freedom councillors, and that's pretty much reflected in the council. The same with Māori candidates. If there's 24% Māori population in Taupo, there should be a quarter of the people, the local representation should be Māori. Because, where am I? Okay, I had it, team. Okay. This is a piece that Duncan Campbell wrote, who's coming onto my channel on Tuesday. This is why I won't be ticking yes to Māori wards, 1st of October 2025. This is my brief take on Māori wards and why I think they aren't a healthy way forward. A lot of people have already made up their mind and some have already voted, and that's just fine. This is only one person's point of view, which you can take or leave. And either way, I don't think it will be a train smash if Māori wards stay or go. Least of all for Māori. We could get into all sorts of questions like was or wasn't committed to the Treaty of Waitangi, but Māori wards are really just about one thing: representation in a democracy. If that's not happening, as has been claimed, there's a problem that deserves to be fixed. But the issue with Māori wards, as I see it, is that they cannot and will not do that. Democracy only works if people show up to vote and understand why they're voting. I worry that carving out separate electoral wards for any group not only doesn't strengthen that process, it's actually a recipe to weaken it. It creates a space where voter engagement can wither even further, and where candidates can succeed not through broad support but because of low turnout and political alignment with specific vested interests that will be a cost for all to bear. Because if you look at these Māori ward seats and stuff, they're getting maybe 20-25% of eligible voter turnout. So the people that are politically aligned, agenda aligned, only have to get a very small turnout of people who are motivated, generally by money, position and power, to get their person in. And the Māori that are voting, a lot of them I speak to are just apathetic. They're like, oh, what's the point? What's the point? Nothing's going to change. Then the Māori that get in seem to just be lockstep agenda aligned. Yeah. We should take a few lessons from history. Māori seats in Parliament were introduced in the 19th century as a very practical way of giving Māori men without individual land titles the ability to vote. But what was originally intended as a temporary fix has become a permanent feature, and one that arguably hasn't delivered on its promise of better outcomes for Māori. And remember, when New Zealand went nuclear free in 1987, can anyone ever recall the actual reasons why? For a refresher, ever since then, I believe we've been basking in a kind of self-righteous glow that often outweighs the practicalities. Māori wards risk heading down the same track, symbolic, entrenched, and ultimately ineffective in solving the real issues, if they even get remembered. What are the real issues? What are the real issues? The reality is there is no such thing as a temporary fix in politics. Once baked in, a thing can hang around as long after its purpose is done. Māori are not children, yet Māori wards treat them as if they are. That's demeaning to everyone. Life throws challenges at all of us in different ways, but the most important breakthroughs don't come from handouts, they come from within. Like if Wahine Murch, who's standing on the Māori roll, if she was in the general ticket, I'd vote for her. I think she's straight up. I think she's straight up and she's smart and she's motivated. Some of the things I don't agree with, but I think she's good quality. Who's the other one? Steve Mananui. Steve Mananui seems like a solid guy, although he talks a lot about equity and inclusion. But respect to him as a man for standing in the general electorate role. But most But the most important breakthroughs don't come from handouts, they come from within. There's a well-known proverb: if you give a man a fish, he will be hungry tomorrow. If you teach a man to fish, he will be richer forever. Māori words are like giving the fish, and I think we can do much better than that. That is very well written, very well written. So I'm hoping that with the Freedom team, we should be getting, and change is incremental, we should be getting at least 1 or 2 councillors, Freedom aligned, anti-fluoride, capping rates, a pushback on centralization and government interference, locals choosing what happens in local areas. We should incrementally be seeing in most councils after the election, vote for who is in alignment with you. It matters. It matters on a local level. Yeah, even if we have 1 or 2 extra Freedom councillors, maybe a mayor that has some Freedom local, doesn't just want to palm things off to central government, because I've been hearing a lot during this campaign that, the rates funding system's not working, we need a model change, and the government's wanting to do away with local representation. We have to fight for our local representative government, public servants, because they are a reflection of us. We don't want the handouts. We'll create it. We'll create it ourselves. And when I hear Steve Mananui talking about equity and inclusion, when the UN talks about equity and inclusion, you look how the vaccine passports worked out for people who didn't have a vaccine passport. Did that include you in things? I got kicked out of jobs, Aikido training, couldn't go to cafes, couldn't go to these places, couldn't go to restaurants. That's the UNese. So when people talk like UN ambassadors, their equity inclusion means if you ain't in their club, you're out of their club.
There's a coordinated global policy push for digital IDs as the new form of government-issued identification credentials. And they're essentially all based on your biometric data, which can be your fingerprints, your face. They very overtly state that CBDCs and digital IDs are meant to go together. And without digital IDs, the CBDC digital finance system cannot exist. They have to know who you are. And so they want to have your wallet tied to a digital ID and have that digital ID be mapped to your physical ID through the biometric data collection. One of the main reasons for this coordinated global push to develop digital IDs is because it's deemed essential to the entire Sustainable Development Agenda, which is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, also known as Agenda 2030. And the specific part dealing with digital IDs is within SDG 16, which is about building peaceful and inclusive societies. One of the indicators of SDG 16, 16.9, calls for legal identification for everyone in the world from the time they're born, essentially. One of the main words they use to market this stuff is equity and inclusion. The idea that we need to include everybody in these new systems. But if you don't participate in digital ID, you won't have a legally recognized identity, you won't have rights, you won't be able to access services without it. So it's being framed as promoting inclusion, but the system itself is inherently exclusionary and has been used to track and surveil people, to link people to, essentially all their activities, what they say online in some of the countries that have rolled this out, and has been used to facilitate human rights abuses. So it's not exactly as inclusive as they like to claim. It's inclusive in the sense that we want everyone equally included in our new system that we're creating, our new control system, fundamentally. What happened with the vaccine passport was to link your identity to your travel, to the freedom of movement. And if you didn't have one, you were excluded from entering certain places. So that, again, highlights the idea of how these digital IDs are inherently exclusionary, because if you don't have one, then you're excluded from, moving where other people that have those privileges. And if you don't abide by these various stipulations, you're excluded from participating.
She's very well read and well spoken, that woman. And their Trojan horse, their Trojan horses are currently to get the digital IDs and the CBDCs are the man-made climate change hoax, and now the mass immigration, the mass migration, the illegal immigrants. That's what they're basing, and they have to want you to want it. They have to want you to. They have to get you to sign in. If 25% of people, 30% of people don't sign in, their plans fail. They're failing. They're their own worst enemies. Their plans. When you've got Arnold, when you got the Pope blessing a cube of ice, and Arnold's running through a list of reasons why. Oh, the sea level, the polar bears. It makes them look retarded. Ricky. Shout out, Carl Bernard.
I didn't have the Pope put in a blessing on a block of ice for the old climate change on my bingo card for 2025. I don't know about you. I didn't have that one. Nope, I didn't have that one. But at this very same event, they've all come out. We've got, who else? But Arnold Schwarzenegger giving a wee message.
You have to communicate the right way. When we started our environmental movement in California, when I became governor,
in California,
people were not behind us. I said to myself, why is that? We're talking about climate change. 20% of the people said, yeah, this is kind of dangerous. Well, you need more than 50%, right, to get anything done.
Absolutely. How do you get that 20% to 50%? Well, it's got to be some sort of social coercion, some sort of nudging, some sort of message that is out continually.
So we talked then about the rising sea level. Nothing, the needle didn't move. No. We talked about the glaciers melting, the ice is melting, the polar bear is in danger. No matter what we said, it didn't move the needle, nothing happened. But then the American Lung Association sent us a television commercial, little commercial that showed a kid, a little tiny kid.
Bit like the old Rona. That'll do it, won't it, yeah? In regards to rising them fear levels, nothing like a bit of fear and a bit of guilt. Fear and guilt, yeah, them two will do it. Get in the chopper!
It's clear to see with those with eyes to see. Trust your God-given faculties. And the Kinner Barons thing, the Kinner Barons scam agenda will create government UN driven land and sea barons. Oh yeah, the high speed boats, Coast Guard boats to make sure no one's fishing or collecting kai moana. Yeah, that's how they want to roll. That's how they want to roll because the Kinners, there's too many Kinners in one patch. Yeah, I'm not trusting that science. Even though that guy's part Māori with long hair and a beard. That is... Oh, the Crown, the government completely supports it. Why doesn't the government completely support adhering to our Bill of Rights? Right to refuse a medical treatment and not allowing, having no fluoride, and no medication in the water with the fluoride. Answer me that. Yeah. They back what they want. They back what they like. And remember, great news, Duncan Campbell coming onto the channel on Tuesday. We're going to have a good korero with him. Looking forward to seeing what he's got to say. And there's only 6 days to the election. I wouldn't post. I would do your ballot, drop it in the box. The chain of custody. Keep the chain of custody tight and right. Have courage. Speak the truth. Support each other. Have faith and have fun. I'm out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Thanks for the comments, Goldie.
We got high and set by the Wellington sign. I had one hell of a time. It's rock and roll till I die. How does it feel to be a writer? How does it feel to be on fire? How does it feel to be a
Subscribe to Los Phoenix's YouTube channel.